What's the most high risk, low reward thing you've ever done? Climbing up a water tower when drunk to find a friend. Turns out said friend was not even lost. He was yelling at me from the base of the tower. Walking into my house as a confident 15-year-old with a cigarette in my mouth telling my dad things were gonna change around here. Whoa. Did not expect this. I feel I must clarify for all involved. This was a skit from a Lee Evans concert I had just watched with a friend. Thinking it was a good idea, IDKY, I thought of doing it to my dad. A merchant seaman of considerable years and experience. A hard man basically. You're either liked or not. No middle ground with him. I didn't take into account that he hadn't seen this particular concert and for all intents and purposes does not do funny. A hit I took that day forever changed me as a man. As it's the best I've had yet. So yes, things changed. I never tried anything that foolhardy again. I still get ringing in my right ear and I never ever told my mom because I fear her more. Thank you all for the replies and rewards. I truly did not expect this. Stay safe everyone. Fixed. Jesus, it's autocorrect lol, relax dictionary divas. I stole every wheel off the chairs in my high school's computer lab as a joke during a 20-minute break. I still have one of them. Probably could have gotten expelled just for a slightly funny joke and a useless chair wheel. Whilst building a house, the second floor had an I-beam that extended out into nowhere that needed to be painted with rust protection paint. The floor had not been installed yet and the joists were still going in. To save time, I shimmied out to the end of the beam and started painting. Every breath of wind made the whole thing sway. Just my movements made it wiggle a fair bit. Nearly took a 6-meter swan dive to a concrete floor about 12 times. I could have painted it after the floor was in, but that would mean laying down drop sheets and lots of messing around. Should have waited. Was a totally stupid thing to do. I skipped class after a standardized test. Literally the afternoon teachers were showing movies and doing nothing and I decided it was smart to get in school suspension to sit behind a warehouse and nap with my dumbest friend. I once followed a young homeless man I just met because he wanted to show me where he was staying. It was nighttime and he invited me down into a dip in the trees. We walked through a dark section of forest, then he showed me some rocks and small caves with a couple beds set up. Then we left. I literally followed a stranger into the dark woods because curiosity, suicidality. I was in band in high school. I had a friend from middle school that was also involved in athletics at the time and the two of us were outcasts among the greater band nerd population and often got talked down to, which even our instructor would join in on from time to time. At the time flipping backpacks was popular, taking things out of the backpack, flipping the backpack inside out, returning the items to the bag and zipping the bag back up. One day when we had a substitute in and he had the class watch the typical BS Mozart movie from the 80s again, I found a mega bag of zip ties and convinced my buddy to help me flip every student's backpack, zip tie the bags closed, and then zip tie the bags into the instrument lockers while everyone watched the movie. If we got caught and reported, the instructor 100% would have suspended us. So we were on extra edge, and right as we were wrapping up, the substitute locked eyes with us from across the room and realized what was going on and decided to pretend nothing happened, and we completed the mission right on time. The class was very pissed as the lights flicked on and they saw what had unfolded. The substitute came back for a class later that year and talked to us, saying he had to actively try not to lose his it when he saw what was going on. I ducking love you, Mr. Hudson. My friends and I used to target and steal those signs that said if you are caught stealing you will be prosecuted. Many illegal things were done and many hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff was ignored to steal increasingly difficult to obtain paper signs. Going way beyond the speed limit when I first started driving. Once got in a fit of road rage. A guy cut me off on the interstate, so I honked at him. Wasn't a quick honk. It was a longer one. Few seconds. Guy slows down and matches the speed of the car in the right lane, so I'm blocked now. I flash my headlights and honk again. He proceeds to spit out his sunroof and it hits my windshield. He then accelerates heavily back to speed. I floor it, move to the right lane and move to pass him. He floors it. Now we're both going faster. Definitely got over 85 miles per hour. Limit was 65 Ike. Coming up quickly on a delivery truck in the right lane. He's still in the left. I'm in the right. I punched it harder. I just barely get in ahead of him, then cut him off. Maybe 50 feet before the delivery truck. I slow down and match the speed of the delivery truck. Wait for probably a minute at that speed limit, then pass the delivery truck and move right. He had been tailgating me and half driving on the shoulder. Guy floors and flies past. I returned to going 5 over the speed limit. Lots of risk. Zero reward. I was a complete idiot and there was nothing to gain. Saved no time and endangered at least 3 lives, if not more. Mine, other guy, and delivery truck. Had a major gambling addiction at 19. Saved $1,600 so that me and my family could put a deposit down on a rental home. We were getting evicted out of our apartment the next day. Had the move all set up and ready to go in the morning. Just had to pay the deposit and we would finally have a nicer place to live. At about 2 AM on the night before the big move, I decided to go to the casino. Completely ducking stupid move. Ended up losing my $40 that I went there with. And then went to the ATM. Pulled out 100 from the 1,600. Lost it. Pulled another 100 to try to win back the first 100. Lost it. Another 100. Lost it. I did this 15 ducking times. I have less than 100 in my checking account. It's now 6 AM. I am completely ducked. My entire family is going to be homeless because of me. So I figure duck it. If my entire life is ruined, I have no use for the last bit of money in my account. What's another spin on the slot gonna do? Well, when I sat down for the final time at the machine, I win $800 on the first spin. A couple spins later, I win another $800 jackpot. I won back all of my $1,600. Immediately cashed in my tickets and got the duck up out of there. I'm 25 now and haven't been back to a casino since that night. Sugar. Almost called 911. Again. Told this story before but it's been a while. My friends and I used to break into expensive looking houses and use their showers. This was in the late 90s when ridiculous showers were in vogue and we wanted to know if they were actually any good. For the most part they were not. We never stole anything, well, except water. We brought our own towels and toiletries. We were very careful about who we hit and made sure they had set schedules and no children or pets. The reward was a ratty shower. We risked jail time. I swam in the Zambezi when I was drunk on a tiger fishing trip. Still can't believe I was that stupid. For those that don't know, it's infested with hippos and crocs, known for taking people. CPR on 2 active TB patients. Felt like it after, neither made it. Told my mom that my dad was working outside and not the truth of him tearing out a wall because he decided a sliding door would be pretty. He did not get it done before she got home. Wasting 2,000 plus hours for playing competitive multiplayer game. The end. Nothing I got other than hurting my eyes, brain, and my emotion. I once went on a heater at the Luxor in Vegas. When it was over I had turned $60 into $78k and change. I was drunk with excitement. It was 8 AM Saturday. On the way to the cage, shadowed by 3 floor guys, I spied an empty blackjack table. I walked over to it and asked one of the floor guys with me if I could bet it all in one hand. The table has a 5k limit. He nodded okay. I had no money to split. After 2 hits we end up pushing on a 17 and I avoided what would have been the most stupid, embarrassing thing I have ever done. Robbing the bank. Monopoly. During an all-nighter study session with my college roommate we decided we wanted to get some McDonald's. It was around 1 AM. So we left all of our stuff in a common study room, laptops and all WTF, and got in my car. It was pitch black, super foggy with my lights on, and raining to top it all off. I couldn't see more than a foot in front of my car so we were driving 10 miles per hour down the highway on no sleep. After less than 5 terrifying minutes we decided the cheeseburgers weren't worth it and went home. Essentially high risk, no reward. Decided to see how fast I could get up to on a nearby neighborhood road, driving my mother's car no less. Got up to 80 miles per hour in around 6 seconds I think. And by the time I realized I should be slowing down the tires were screeching as I tried to stay on the road. It was a mostly straight neighborhood road, 35 mph. the curve near the end leading to a 4-way stop. I got up to 80 right where the road began to curve, and as I was turning I was going so fast that I went over into the other lane. Just a foot or two from going up over the curb. Slowed down and brought the car to a stop at the intersection, and my family member sitting in the passenger seat looked over at me as if he had just hit the life right out of himself. I was 19 at the time and got my license that same summer. My passenger was 16. I've never had such a powerful moment of instant regret after that day. I didn't feel cool at all. I could have killed a pedestrian, a child, or myself and my family member. That was the day I truly learned that I could lose my life, and have respected all traffic laws since. Well, to a reasonable extent. I'm only glad that we came out completely unharmed. I played Russian roulette solitaire. I was working as a chef in a gourmet bar restaurant, and I'd become somewhat of a teacher's pet in the form of my manager's favorite employee because I was never late. Covered shifts etc. Not for his sake. I wanted more money. New guy started and he was just awful. Only got 2 weeks into the job before almost being sacked, but I wanted to teach him the ways. Anyway, one day he carelessly left a cloth on an open flame during prep in the morning of Valentine's Day, our biggest revenue generator, and the fire ravaged through about 1/4 of the kitchen, including the stock, the microwaves, the cooker and the veg prep area. And for some stupid ducking reason I said it was my fault when the manager was on the warpath, thinking the new guy would be saved and I'd just take a humongous bollocking for being stupid and all would be fine eventually. Nope. I got sacked. He threw me out. To this day I will never ever understand why I put my neck into that guillotine of fire. Sneaking into my parents' room at night while they were sleeping to use the ensuite as it was more comfortable than the shared bathroom. It took ages as I slowly opened the door and crept across the room too, all for a cozier poop. Thinking back now, that was madness. When I didn't get caught eventually, my dad screamed, "WTF are you doing in here at this hour?" and when the answer was to use that bathroom instead of the other bathroom, he just about lost his mind. I've talked about this before, but Halloween costumes were banned at my high school because of some idiots like 10 years before that dressed up and used it as an excuse to hide their face while they vandalized the school. My senior year, more than half of the class decided that we would still dress up and march into the school together in the morning. We all knew we would be punished right away, but it didn't matter. I stayed up all night making a suit of armor out of metallic duct tape and cardboard, along with a broomstick horse to ride. Air cute. The next day we all gathered in the parking and waited for everyone to show up. People went all out and there were a lot of amazing costumes. And after about 20 minutes of waiting we started our march in. The deans had learned of our plan and were waiting for us right as we entered. They started pulling people aside in groups and taking student IDs to hand out Saturday detentions. Got to be in costume for all of about 30 minutes before they made us change and gave us our detentions. Except for a few people that wore costumes that couldn't be changed out of. Like my buddy Dave that was a ghostbuster and had nothing under his jumpsuit. Those people got in school suspension for the day along with the detentions. I was a free intern for a flower shop. One day there was a shady person walking in the store basement. Somebody said he stole something from the shop and fled to the basement. The shop was in an apartment building, street level, and the basement led to all over the building. So they said to me, a 16-year-old girl, to go to the basement and check the situation out. Well, I was young and dumb and went. Thank God I found no one. Jumping onto a bus that was pulling away from the bus stop without closing its doors. The buses every 10 minutes. Shoplifted condoms 3 years ago. I'm still a virgin. Moved across the country for a guy. Got married. Now divorced. Hate it here. No family. Freshman year of high school I went to Spanish class and the door wasn't open, so I waited outside for the teacher to come back from her lunch break as she was not inside. Took her a while. And while I waited, a bunch of my other classmates were waiting too. I was friends with a couple people in that class and I thought it would be funny to jokingly try to open the lock on the door with a bobby pin. So I tried and I stuck the bobby pin in the locker a load of times. Giggles and did whatever. Well, by the time the teacher showed up a couple minutes later and tried to unlock the door, it wouldn't open. She was like, "Huh, that's weird, it was fine this morning." Keep in mind this high school was pretty strict and they had cameras everywhere. So I was freaking out internally like OMG duck. The teacher decides to send me of all people to the office to ask for someone to open the door. Worst couple minutes of my life praying that my friends didn't say it lol. I was stationed at GTMO, worked exterior security, nothing in the facility itself, and it's actually a pretty laid back place to work. In a ho there's a bunch of different beaches we could swim at and me and a few others thought it would be fun to swim down around the fences and snap some pictures on the Cuba side. Turns out they really didn't like that. They didn't approach us but there was an announcement made that doing such was highly illegal. They shut down the adjoining beaches and they demanded we come forward. We never did and they never figured it out, but yeah we basically risked an international incident for a couple of pictures. Stupidest thing I've ever done. Slept in a tent at an abandoned asbestos mine. Was able to see some of the asbestos all over the ground. View wasn't bad in the morning though. Note, most asbestos related issues don't show for 30 years. Don't know if it is 30 years. Can't be bothered looking it up. I won't know if I'm safe or going to end up with lung damage. Philosophy degree. Beat that. Over 10 years of illegal graffiti. So ducking stupid. It's been the only constant in my life for a decade. I'm an expert in a stupid ass hobby. Arrested multiple times. Been beat up multiple times. I went against the status quo of earning my stripes and accepting disrespect from the older generation. This made far more enemies than friends. There are multiple people that I don't want to run into because of it. We disagreed on 5-10 years ago. Rehab twice. Had a reward out for me that was almost 20 times minimum wage in that country. Gave up on art school and barely made it through a second try because it was selling out and I only cared about graph. I'm not even a hardcore graffiti writer. I'm mediocre at best. I just stayed a purist and didn't transition to legal stuff. Legal graffiti is a contradiction and is looked down on by illegal artists. I made it into my late 20s and I'm not a failure at life. I came out better than most of the guys I've painted with over the years. I work in a completely different field now with mediocre qualifications. Now I'm considered an expert veteran, but the only people that look up to me are 16-year-old degenerates. Not worth it. It gets girls though. I ate an innocent piece of lettuce in Bolivia, yeah I ended up in hospital and I think I still have all my organs.